Well, absolutely.
Oh,
Thank you.
all right. That's great. All right. So we'll start this over with sound this time. All right. So welcome to this month's Baldman HQ. Yeah. Second time. First one was Eric Minge with the lore, and if you didn't see that, you'll want to check it out down below. Very excited this month to have my two guests joining us from Brazil, Savo and Persio. I'm not even going to try the last name this time because I messed it up last time.
Don't worry, you did a very good job.
My Portuguese is not good. But they're
My English is not good, so
You're a
we are
fast
matched.
learner, you know. Till the end of the show, you are going to speak a lot more of words in Portuguese.
oh, if only it worked like that. But yeah, so gonna let Gustavo and Persio introduce themselves before we get started, and then we're gonna talk a bit about D&D in Brazil and the Portuguese games that Baldman Games has been offering. All right, Gustavo, your picture is above Persio, so I'll let you go first.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. My name is Gustavo Souza. The people also know me as Sembiano. I have been playing D&D since the 90s, and I have been involved with the D&D organized play since the out. Nowadays, I'm co-producer of weekly based segments, podcast here in Brazil, the segment podcast here in Brazil named Café com Dungeon, and I play in a lot of other string shows here. Besides that, I am husband and father too, so we work a lot.
All right, and Persio, how about you?
Well, thank you for having us here. It's a pleasure. My name is Percio, also known as DM Bugbear, but in Portuguese, Bugurso. And I am the main editor in Galapagos Games, a publisher here in Brazil that works with the Wizards of the Coast official D&D books. So I am the responsible guy that is leading the translation or localization efforts to bring the D&D into Portuguese languages. We have like 8 books already, so there is lot more ground to cover, but we are doing good. This is like the second year of D&D in Portuguese. I play since the 90s, since the second edition of D&D. Played a lot of role-playing games since then, board games, everything analogic, like tabletop games in general. I'm a father as well, husband, and love to play analog games, as I said.
Unmute myself again. This is my daily struggle. But excited to have you both here and to learn a bit more about everything that you guys do. We'll go ahead and get started. And so to kick off, so a brief recap, if it wants to go to the next slide, there we go, of our March event. So once again, not surprising to anyone, we had explosive growth from our February event with tons of unique new players. We did the Candlekeep Mysteries previews this month before the book launched this past week, and those were a huge hit. We had to keep adding tables to keep up with demand. Players were once again reporting back very high scores for satisfaction, and they say that they love that they know where to go to find all of the new games. So that's pretty exciting, and we're hoping to see a lot of people back next month and bring in their friends. For anyone who's not aware what the virtual weekends are, it's these big, huge things that we do every month where we hang out with all of our new friends, our old friends, our friends that we haven't met yet, and we play D&D. So you can find the newest content, seasonal content, epics, special event, dungeon craft, historic, masters content, all of it. We've got it there, including stuff that's not even D&D Adventurers League. People run special things like 20th level Tarask games or Theros games. And find those at a variety of price points. And you can sign up at yawningportal.dnd.wizards.com, and you can find more information on the Baldman Games website. So foreign language games, which is something we're very proud of at Baldman Games and kind of what we're going to talk about today. So we've gotten off to a great start with those. Our first month that we offered them in February, we ran 5 tables of Portuguese language games, and those were kind of mixed in with the general games on the Yawning portal, so it was a little difficult to find. This last month in March, we switched and we separated all of the Portuguese games off into their own Yawning portal site, where everything was in Portuguese, and they also had their own Portuguese server. So it made it a lot easier for everyone to find the games they wanted to play. So we ended up running 7 tables of Portuguese, and that was 2 from the month before, and next month it's going to be, what do you think, 9, 10, 11, 12? Something like
I
that?
think 10 is a good number.
10. All right, 10. We've got a target. So in addition to Portuguese, we are looking to add additional options for foreign languages in the near future. So if you've got friends in other countries, stay tuned and look forward to that. Get some Spanish, German, French, Italian, who knows? So excited to do that. Make it more inclusive. So we are here today, though, to talk about, D&D and Brazil. Got our experts here.
Ooh.
I know, right? So
lots of responsibility.
Yeah.
I hope you got your wisdom scores high here. So I guess we'll start with the easy ones then. How did RPGs, D&D, organized play, and all of that get started in Brazil? Like, how long have people been doing D&D down there?
It's kind of difficult to track this specific point in role-playing game history in Brazil, because although the role-playing games were basically born in US in middle 70s, something like that, right? With the first edition of D&D, we kind of just start to having access to the content like a decade ago, a decade after the initial release. So in mid 80s, you start to see something around role-playing games getting from abroad to Brazil, mainly by people that travel and bought the books, bring them overseas to Brazil, start playing with their groups. But it's a very, very kind of underground.
Hard. It's a hard. So if you find someone to play, it's like, oh my God, what is it? Because it's a revolution, no? And
it was difficult to find a group, like Gustavo said. It's difficult to talk about because nobody here understands, have ever heard about. So, there's no internet at that time. So there's no reference of role-playing games. And by the beginning of the 90s, there were some publishers in Brazil that started bringing content in Portuguese. I mean, localization or translating the books, GURPS, White Wolf in general, World of Darkness, Dungeons and Dragons. And this is the main starting point of the role-playing games history in Brazil.
Talking about the organized play, I think that starts here. I don't know if you remember, there was the RPGA clubs.
Yes, I'm familiar with the RPGA. Let's see, Dave Christ, that is the Baldman himself, had a big hand in doing all of the RPGA stuff. So it was kind of a big thing everywhere.
And there
we were subscribers.
Yeah, totally. I received Polyedron. Yeah,
Polyedron magazine.
Oh, so you got the dice and the little minis with the cards sometimes. Yeah.
And And I think that starts here in the end of the 90s too. But I think they came more strong with Living Greyhawk. And because we could download the adventures from the core section of Living Greyhawk, and we start to play more. I think that the organized play starts to grow in with the Living Greyhawk.
Okay, Living Greyhawk. It was a pretty popular campaign. Actually, all of the
Yeah.
Living Forgotten Realms, Living Greyhawk. Sorry, the dog. And so it's not really surprising that with something as popular as that started to reach like other areas of the world, and people started to kind of want to know like, what's that? How do we play? So so then you've kind of gotten to Living Greyhawk and all of that through third, 3.5, fourth edition to where we are now. So what is the D&D community like currently in Brazil?
It's growing. It's growing.
That's
Yeah.
There is a kind of hiatus in the last like 5 years because there was a point in the fifth edition release, after the fifth edition release, that the only possible way to play the D&D was English, because there is no possibility for Wizards to publish in other languages. That was their first statement at the time. But as this changed after some years, I believe 2 or 3 years after the release, there were initiatives to bring the books to other languages, and these kinds of starting to see a flourish of gamers in Brazil. They already have access to the content, but language is a barrier
correct.
because most
Yeah.
of the population here does not speak English or does not have good access to it. So playing your own local language is natural. And our role-playing gaming in general is mainly played by oral narratives, so this is your main media to spread the word, to create the images in your players' heads, to formulate the ideas of the concepts of these words, these creatures that you are describing. So language, it's a barrier, because
Yes.
when I talk to you, Jeannie, when I talk to you, you are coming to a beautiful city that is named Belo Horizonte. What these words mean to you? Belo Horizonte. Does it ring a bell for you? Anything?
Yeah, I can't say that it sounds like a beautiful name, but I can't say that I know.
That's the point. When I am describing that you are arriving at a beautiful city, and I just spoke a name in Portuguese, it you can kind of try to reproduce the sound, but
Mhm.
it does not ring a bell to you because you're not familiarized with Portuguese language. So Belo Horizonte is like a beautiful horizon. This is the name of one city here. So if I explain to you in your language, now it's completely different. You can imagine a city that's beautiful sunset in the late afternoon. So
Mhm.
you can complete this picture, this image in your head. So the same thing is the opposite. When we are trying to bring a content in Portuguese, we are offering this kind of experience to a player
Right.
because it has a lot of meaning for them.
Yeah. We don't have the exact numbers, but if you see clearly, it's one of the biggest RPG community here. Checking the numbers of Facebooks, I know that Facebook is relevant for RPG here in Brazil. So if you see the face groups from D&D, they are the biggest ones. like 30,000-40,000 members. So you could see that is one of the biggest communities here, even with these problems that Perseus talked about.
And that definitely would make, you know, a lot of difference having that language barrier, because like there's a lot of idioms and sayings where, like, if we're describing something where it's like, you know, as dry as the Dust Bowl, like for Americans, like we can picture like the Great Plains when they did all the farming, and it just become like these dust storms. Whereas
Exactly.
in Portuguese in Brazil, you didn't have that in your history. So people are like, a bowl of, like, you take it more literally, like a bowl of dirt. Like, what? This doesn't make any sense, you know. Literal,
Exactly.
literal translations are often very difficult.
Yeah.
So, getting more of these books translated into Portuguese and into, you know, other languages, your localization, it really opens up the availability of this to offer more content to people. And Daniel's telling us that the D&D Brazil on Facebook has about 12,000 members, which is that's pretty substantial.
Yeah, but we have groups on Facebook with around 30,000.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's going to be a lot of groups. So if you overlap with some of them, when you combine them all, you've probably got, you know, who knows, 100,000, 200 in total? Like, who knows?
Yeah,
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. So with the availability of more content and more of it becoming, you know, more companies now putting stuff into Portuguese, like, what types of, you know, role-playing games, what types of content do players, DMs run? Do you know, is it more D&D? Is it more World of Darkness? Is it more, you know, horror, mystery, dungeon crawls? Like,
well, we have a kind of a mixture of every major role-playing game in Portuguese. And this is, I believe, this is my personal perception. I believe this is mainly because the legacy of Portuguese versions that were being released since the 90s. So we started mainly with GURPS, the Steve Jackson games GURPS.
GURPS is
Then
an interesting game.
So, you know, this is mainly, it's not exactly the first, but it's mainly one of the very first role-playing games that came into our territory, I mean, in Portuguese. So GURPS is not a user-friendly, let's say that way, let's put that way. It's not a user-friendly role-playing games. You know, it's very dense in terms of rules for the DMs, for the players. But, you know, everything that came after was easier because we have D&D and World of Darkness Vampire right after GURPS. I mean, I believe in the same year or in the year after. So
that was a huge success here. No, Vampire here
exactly.
is matched with D&D in the 90s. No, and after that, in third edition, with no vampire games here, they migrate to D&D. But if you see in the end of the 90s, the LARPs are here. The by nights are famous, and I think that the best also the most no organized play here is the by nights until today, because they're huge here.
A Brazilian audience is the second in the world for World of Darkness, second only to D&D. And second only to English speakers.
Huh.
And of course here there is a local campaign setting very popular named Tormenta. It's like Tormenta 20. It's more like a D&D 3.5 version with a very good campaign setting here, famous too, and today match with D&D.
So like Pathfinder, but you know.
It's like a Pathfinder, but they choose another way.
It's OGL.
Well, that's kind of how I'm saying. like how Pathfinder kind of evolved because people wanted to keep playing 3.5, you all have your own game that has evolved because people wanted to do 3.5 and their own setting, which is pretty much what Pathfinder is, but you've got your own Pathfinder, so that's kind of neat. That speaks to the level of, I guess, devotion people have to that particular edition.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
if you loved 3.5, then people stick with it.
Yeah. Oh, for me, I'm migrate to 4E because I'm in love with 4E. Today I play fifth edition, only fifth edition, but it was a grateful time playing
Oh
for edition too. With Living Forgotten Realms, I go crazy.
I
Included I ran some Ash Sofatas from Baldman's games here.
Ash
The camper. Yeah.
with Robert
I
and
ran in
Sheep.
some games. Yeah.
It's Pathfinder plus explosions. I'm personally not a fan of 4E, but to each their own. I love 5th edition and how easy it is to explain to people.
You are a person with distinct tastes, you know.
Well, 4th edition has its fans, and they are, very passionate, such as yourselves. But that's the reason there's so many editions, something for everyone.
Yeah. So for me, I'm with D&D. Doesn't matter the edition. So go ahead.
Yeah.
I love the scenarios, and I think that this make D&D a unique game. Not only the system, but all the culture and things like that. So it's D&D are now is in the pop culture, no? So
Yes, it is. It's in it's in television shows. It's people talk about it in music even now. Nerds are popular.
Yeah. Finally.
It feels,
finally.
yeah, we'll take it. So it's very exciting. But so then with there being more stuff and more available, so we have a lot of conventions obviously in the US and a lot of D&D events and stuff, and a lot of game days, public games. What's like the public gameplay down there, like game days in game stores, RPG conventions, other large events? Are there a lot of them? Or I imagine there's not it's a very large country.
Yeah. It's a very large country.
People don't really realize how large Brazil is.
Yeah. Almost like US, no? The US, but
if you ignore Alaska.
Well, given the right proportions, of course, a good way to explain that is I am probably as far distant from Amazon rainforest than you. Probably. You are far from it compared to me, but we are close to it almost equally.
I don't know. I'm pretty far north in the U.S. I'm in Michigan, so almost up to Canada. But for a lot of the U.S., probably actually is true. It's it's if you're not
if
good,
you are down south in like Florida or Miami,
then you're very close to it.
You are very close to it, or as close to as I.
Yeah, I don't know if we've lost Gustavo. He's frozen.
So it's a huge country. That's why we get into this point.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the people ask us, "Oh, do you know the forest, the Amazon?" Man, this is so distant from us that it's nearly impossible to reach it. It's not like it's my neighbor state or city.
Not at all. So which part of Brazil are you in?
We are in we are in São Paulo. Me and Gustavo, we are in São Paulo, the capital.
Yes.
the city of São Paulo and the capital of the state of São Paulo. São Paulo is like New York or Tokyo with 12 million people. It's a metropolis,
Okay.
a huge metropolis.
About the size of
So,
Chicago, then, a little bigger.
Yeah, we are down in the southeast Brazil.
And we did finally lose Gustavo. Uh-oh. That has upset the whole thing. Now everyone is see. Contact him. Or is he having? There we are. Yes. No, sorry.
Yay.
Sorry, when we lost Gustavo, it moved everyone's pictures around, so
no worries. Everything got right into the place.
I'm back.
You are back. And you can only see Persio and I's forehead, but it was a very beautiful forehead, both of us.
Sorry about that internet.
Oh no, you are fine. We were just talking about the geography of Brazil still, and how it's rather massive, and a lot of the U.S. is just as close to the Amazon as you are down in Sao Paulo. Let's see. Patritos is in Amazonia region, and D&D is very popular there too. Oh goodness, we have a bunch of people telling me where they're from. Fortaleza,
Northeast, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful beach there. No, to see the sea and something like that. It's a coastal city. Very, very.
So.
Fortaleza.
Yeah. Oh, Gustavo, your connection is not great. You're cutting in and out. So, we talked a little bit about, how there's not a Brazilian Cancun. That would, that's there you go. Put in terms. So, you don't really have a lot of game stores. But you do have some conventions that go on.
Yeah. Back then in the 90s, there was not that much of brick and mortar games in Brazil. They were very rare,
right,
and mostly concentrated in the capital cities. But I may say that after 2010s, the number of brick and mortar stores specialized in tabletop games and role-playing games as well starts to grow in Brazil, in every state, in every corner of the country, to the point that we now have like board game cafes and and stuff like that is simply does not exist in the previous decade.
That kind of makes sense, because that's when board games in general started to become more and more popular.
Especially
in Europe, where they do have that focus on putting a board game out in like 6-7 languages at the same time, like simultaneously from the beginning. So I imagine that was very helpful for the tabletop culture down there to have all of these board games releasing suddenly in Portuguese. It gets more people interested in sitting down at a table and playing a game with their friends, and then they're like, okay, well, we play board games. What about role-playing games?
Yeah, we have huge events, role-playing games events in the 90s to the beginning of the 2000s. Huge events with Mark Hain coming down to Brazil, and many other personalities, authors, artists from the role-playing game world coming down here to sign the books and everything. but this uh, uh, went into a kind of hiatus, 10-year hiatus.
Mhm.
Then it starts to growing up again, you know.
Mhm.
Our foreheads are going to be presenting this show now.
Oh, let's see. Yeah, that is true.
It's kind of mind talk, you know. We can say that.
it's kind of funny though. Um let's see if I want to
Yeah, the people can understand that this is our telepathy. They are just listening to the sound of our voice, but looking at our heads. So
do what we can. Let's see. I am working on it. Let's put us back. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, figure out when Gustavo comes back. All right. All right. So we'll go on for now and just ignore the uh random bits of screen in Gustavo's box.
it's okay. It's okay. So
So
where we are at?
so yeah, prevalence of game stores started getting more, and then you had like a bit of a hiatus on people coming down there and doing the book sign
Mhm.
stuff. Um, but you still have other events going on, like bigger events, like and there he's back. All right.
Oh my god,
Oh my goodness.
my
That's
gosh.
all right. Back.
I'm back.
Okay. But yeah, you still have other events. So, not necessarily RPG specific conventions, but you have pop culture conventions and other stuff where
Mhm.
gaming is happening. And so, you've got a very healthy and thriving, I guess,
Yeah,
geek community.
like yeah, the Gen Con 2019 has the in Brazil has the largest Gen no Comic Con experience. 2019
Mhm.
has the largest audience in Brazil in 2019 in, from all the Comic Con experience. So the geek culture, the pop culture around everything that we like, it's very very popular here.
Yeah. And, that really kind of speaks to like how all of these events going on, all of these events getting bigger.
Exactly.
It shows like the growth is natural, and so kind of moving to getting more involved in events in other countries then um, kind of like the next logical progression, especially with everything moving online because of COVID-19.
Exactly. Exactly.
um, so what is it like running Portuguese adventures for a US based show? I know there's a lot of taboo about paying for D&D and other RPGs in Brazil.
Yeah. Uh, Gustav probably have more data into that specific point because he's part of the organization. I am with the guys as well, but I do not play as much as I want or DM as much as I need to because I need to translate the books. But what I can say is that uh, we are kind of trying to overcome this language barrier and explain the audiences here that although the administration, the structure is still in English, we have a kind of have a group, a local group, uh, fostering this community to came to play, to understand it is a safe place. We are following rules, we are following guidelines to kind of not only translate the content into your table, but the full experience. as much similar as a game in the original English language.
Mhm.
So that's why we are trying to achieve here, to present this picture for the people that are trying to find a table, to understand how to start in an organized play. You have a way to do that. It's safe, it's secure, it's official, because we are
Mhm.
kind of partnering with the guys that are handling this worldwide. Uh, and of course there is some kind of barriers in this particular case. Is not only because of the language, because of course we translate it during
Mhm.
our sessions. Even though we receive the materials in English, we are able to translate, to do the sessions fully in Portuguese. But as you said, there is a kind of taboo regarding paying for playing. This is not something that people here are used to as much as in other markets or other
Mhm.
regions, especially in US. That this is a common practice in
We pay for
every
everything.
in every event. I had the chance to participate in events in the Gen Con. I went to Essen in Germany. This kind of events, i- it's normal. It's the rule.
Mhm.
It's not the exception. So every kind of attraction or specific
And at the end,
experience, you need to pay, and this is fair. As much as there is not a prohibitive value, it's fair, because there is another person there that is preparing everything, the props, the adventure that it's able to provide you some hours of good entertainment. So why not? That's the question. Why not? Right?
And yeah. And Gustavo, if you want to turn your camera off and just talk and see if that works, that's fine. Kind of there. Um
I don't know if I answered your
no,
question.
I mean no, you did kind of. And to further elaborate, Ed kind of explains there in chat that in Brazil, RPGs are kind of more like a family tradition, very intimate, very personal. So,
Exactly.
like when money gets involved in something very intimate like that, it's kind of offensive to some people. Which would that kind of syncs up to some of the things in the U.S. of where like if you make something for someone that you love, you just want to give them something and they try to pay you for it, you don't know. No, you don't want that.
Yeah.
So it's not an entirely, I guess, foreign
Yeah. I believe we can divide this kind of experiences in two distinct groups. One being your local group, your local friends
Mhm.
that you normally play with, right?
Right.
So this not involves money at all. It's just for the fun of the party.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. But the other group is the events, and events are different because there is a lot of infrastructure around these events. Being small or huge, there is something around them to provide the content, seats for everybody, safety. Well, lots of stuff that goes invisible for the ones that are just sitting on the table and playing the game. So if we can project that there are so many people involved into an event to make it viable, you know, there is some costs involved as well. So it's different in this case. But there is one caveat here, because the exchange rates when you're playing, where that's another how can I say, another issue. When you are playing an international event and you are paying in dollars, it's much more expensive for Brazilian players. So that's mainly could be an issue for some players.
Oh,
I don't know what I did. Ah! Okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah, but apparently they couldn't. I guess when I tried to turn myself up, it muted me. As I was saying though, it's not really terribly uncommon. Like it's been paying to play at like Gen Con and other large events like that has been, it's prevalent for a while. But paying to play at like your local game store or heaven forbid, just online with random strangers hasn't really been a thing, and that's getting more and more common and more accepted, especially with the pandemic, and people can't just go to the game store to find these pickup games, and they want to know when they're going online they have a good DM. They have a DM who spent time preparing.
Exactly.
That they have a DM who's going to bring, good Roll20 or good Foundry or good whatever it is. Who's
Mhm.
and they're willing to pay money to kind of guarantee that, because in essence, like if you're paying money, then you do become the customer, and as a customer you have certain expectations that it's fine to have. You expect
Absolutely.
to get
Absolutely.
value for your money. And so there's been a little bit of there are still a lot of people who are very opposed to paying for a DM. But
Well, at least for our perspective, and please provide us your point of view as well. This whole thing about being a professional DM, let's put that way, a professional
Yeah.
DM, a DM who charges for providing you some hours of entertainment.
yes.
It's kind of a new stuff. I mean, it's from a few years ago,
No,
right?
that is rather new. It's like there've probably been people who, people paid them to DM since the beginning of D&D, but it wasn't really like it wasn't a thing.
A thing, right?
Especially because, the
I
enter
think
wasn't a thing. Go ahead, Gustavo.
I think that here people yet don't understand the difference between a regular adventure offered like a free ticket in an event and a paid adventure in events like Virtual Weekend. In a paid event like Virtual Weekend, the dungeon master needs to prepare the adventure. That's the cost of the adventure. It's a play tested one by a team and brings the entire concept behind organized play program. We are talking about two different experiences, and the challenge here is show that
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. The challenge is to demonstrate the
for the
value to players, right? Once you get someone to do it the first time and pay for it, they realize that like, yeah, the DMs are prepared. The DMs have brought this visual thing to life. They not all of us do voices because we're not all good at voices. That's me. I'm not good at voices. But those of us who can do, and those of us who can't, we bring other stuff to make up for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people dress up. Some people make
And-
very
and I-
elaborate
and I think
maps.
that-
Yeah.
I believe Gustavo's connection is is not helping him as much today.
No, I don't.
you opportunity
All right.
to play in a campaign style,
Mm-hmm.
Cut.
All right. You're cutting out. Do you want to turn off your video
Oh,
and then you can just talk?
I turn off my video.
Oh, that's much better. All
Yeah,
right.
sure. Sorry.
Now we can hear you.
I think that. Oh my gosh! Thank you.
Okay.
But I think that Adventures League brings you opportunity to play in a campaign style without a fixed group. That a lot of people don't have a fixed group to play, and Adventures League gives you this glimpse. I don't know.
Yeah, and I find that Adventures League is great for that because it's I mean, anybody who's ever tried to schedule a game knows it's hard to get
It's hard.
your five friends to agree to a single time that they can get together for 3 to 8 hours. Who knows how long your game is? And I've been told the games tend to be a little longer in Brazil. I might be, no.
No, a little bit longer. You are so polite.
But that's one of the things that, like, you go to Adventures League for, because you don't have to coordinate with your 6 friends who are
Exactly.
who some of them work nights, some of them work days, some of them have kids. You can find 6 new friends who happen to be available at from 6
that specific time.
from 6 to 10 p.m.
Exactly.
It fits in
That's
your
it.
schedule. You know when it's going to happen. All you have to do is show up. And that's kind of the beauty of it. And that's one thing that with these events that you're paying for. You're paying for the convenience of, I know when this game is going to be. I know that there are going to be people.
Yeah, they are prepared. They are going to bring a lot of stuff. Most of the
You
times
play
is new stuff or legacy stuff that you does not have access to by any other means. So this is a lot of value added, right?
Yes.
yeah, and you play in a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
You and you that you be safe there. So I think that to regulars, that there is a team behind. This is very important.
Yes. Coming to these events, there's certain expectations, and a lot of them are clearly outlined. Like, we have our code of conduct.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know that you're not going to get sat down at a table with someone who's a complete jerk, and if they are, then or who's harassing you, who's calling you slurs, or
Sure.
racist or homophobic or any of that. Because if they are, then all you have to do is let someone know, and they will no longer be at your table. That's not a thing.
It's simple. It's simple as that. So these events are making sure that the ecosystem that you are joining in, it's safe, it's secure.
Mm-hmm. And so
Uh,
you have a good time. We try to make sure that you have a good time.
Because
Yeah.
that's the main expectation, right? You want to have friends, people available at that specific time to have a good time.
We want,
This
yeah,
is the
You-
this is the bottom line.
and kind of the same as, like,
what is
go ahead.
sorry, sorry. You what we run here, what we run here, no? For now, like in Adventures League, the players like the season 10 and the previews. The Candle Keep was a huge success here. All the
Mhm.
tables full, and I think that the season 10 and the tables adventures here for now for the Adventures League, and the models. No, the models are very popular here. The models that Galapagos translated, like Curse of Strahd and Descent into Avernus, and the new model always.
Because the new stuff is always popular, and I imagine that's going to be one of the draws of coming and playing the Baldman Games events with in Portuguese, is that you're going to be getting the new stuff at the exact same time as the rest of the world is. You're getting the premiere straight from Wizards of the Coast, and so you get to be involved in that community. You get to be part of that community, and like Daniel says, you like to be in your sessions and make new friends, and you get to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, so talk a little bit about briefly about the translated books and everything, and how that comes in and how that's made. You've been part of that process, getting the books translated. So how has that been?
It's how can I describe it properly? It's a privilege
Mm-hmm.
This is the first word. Is a privilege. It's a dream come true because as a player, as a GM, as a fan, what else could you ask than to work with your main or most loved uh, role playing game?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a privilege, right? So, but on top of that, there is a lot of responsibility involved because there were previous versions. There are some kind of established legacy terminology. People want to kind of want to
Mm-hmm.
have things to remain as they were, but sometimes the world has changed, our view, our society has changed, so we need to adapt a
Gotta
little bit
update.
here and there. There are some terminology that could be kind of how can I say, sensible today, so you need to review that to make sure that the product, the content, the lore, it's appropriate
Mm-hmm.
to our society as today. And I believe this is a main um, uh,
And
caution that the original editors from Wizards of the Coast, they take care of that. So every other foreign language needs to replicate that in their particular languages.
that's something too that even like the English versions, like we're constantly, especially recently, making updates for like current society. Like Curse of Strahd got updated because
Yeah, exactly.
there were insensitive depictions of the Vistani, which kind of mirror the Romani people. Any oh, I don't know. But
Wrong people.
Romani. Yeah. All of a sudden, I don't know how to pronounce anything. Um,
Don't worry.
but they acknowledged that and they've made changes, and so doing that going into other languages, it only makes sense because language is constantly evolving, and I imagine that's one
Yeah.
of the hardest parts of doing these translations is keeping up with that.
Exactly. And there are two additional challenges that I can bring up to clarify today. The second is the uh, sometimes the people that are used to have D&D versions in English or have been accessing these old versions in English, they want to have some terminology to remain in English
Mm-hmm.
even in the translated versions, which is incongruent, because or you translate or you use the original English version. There is
Oh,
no kind of hybrid version.
no, we do that
Uh,
all the time. It's fine. English has adopted words from so many languages.
so,
So,
what's the point, right? And in the third challenge is uh, the release gap. We have a
mm-hmm,
huge release gap. Like there is like around 25, 28 books
mm-hmm.
at the time that you started translating the player's handbook a year and a half ago. So at that time, Wizards already published like 28 books
So
uh,
you add a lot of work to
from
you.
from from the fifth edition. So we need to separate the translating team into two groups. One to keep the pace with the current releases
Mm-hmm.
and have as minimal delay as possible from a release from original English language version to Portuguese, like 4 to 6 months tops, and another group designated to work on legacy materials, like Gustavo said, Curse of Strahd
Mm-hmm.
and Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, books that were released like 3 4 years ago, right?
Sounds right.
So we
Actually,
have two teams, one working on new releases, trying to keep up the pace, and another team working on legacy. I am saying legacy materials, but old D&D 5th edition books.
I mean, Legacy is a.
Yeah.
Trying to chime in.
Yeah, no, I think that the challenge of translation here is because a small part of the audience prefers English terms and they like to complain about how the translation has been done independently of the quality, no? They don't understand that translating D&D is about accessibility
Right.
in a country where a small number of people really understand English. So the hobby, in order to grow, need translations. This is the real fact.
Yeah, and
Is that kind of mind experience that we did in the program right before here. When you present a terminology for a person that does not understand the other language, the maximum point of understanding is trying to replicate the sound, but there is no meaning behind it,
Mhm.
you know. And role-playing games is mainly meaning by words. You utilize the words, the narrative, to create images.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm unable to create the image in your head of a beautiful city if I speak to you in Portuguese, not in English, right?
right.
So I'm kind of uh, if I insist to do that, I'm lowering your experience, you know.
And that makes sense. That makes sense. So you want to, and that's the point of all the translations, to make it more accessible to more people. So
Exactly.
to put
Yeah.
more of it in Portuguese, um, you get a bigger audience. Because like I said, I believe Gustavo gave me the figures that 5% of Brazilians can understand basic English, but only 1% are fluent. So
Yeah.
you really need to cater your translations to that 99%. Like that's your
Yes,
audience.
it's a huge amount.
And then, that 1% who really like the English words in D&D, they can then take the time to teach it to their game groups. Sorry,
You got it.
it's on you if you had a preference.
That's what I said. If you prefer the English version, go for it. It's still there. It's still available. The Portuguese version does not close the market for the English version. On quite the opposite.
No, exactly, and that's the thing that just because you have a new thing doesn't take away the old thing. That's
Exactly.
so hard to explain to some people.
It's even difficult for us because there are so many years of exposure to the English versions that sometimes we are playing and I just say I am describing a session in fully in Portuguese, and I just say, and you throw a fireball in English.
And they're like,
And not
what?
bola de fogo, the name
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
spell in
It's-
Portuguese. Sometimes it just we just say in English.
the name of the spells, the name of the feat sometimes. So how is this in Portuguese?
Sometimes it just doesn't make sense when it's the structure of English makes it very hard to translate. Oh goodness. That's me. Anytime I'm trying to translate a language in my head, trying to break it apart and rearrange it.
And that's why I am utilize the DM Bugurso, DM Bugbear. I
Gosh.
I appropriate the Portuguese name for me.
It's true.
All right. Well, so no, thank you both so much for your time. This has been, enlightening, and there we go, got Gustavo's face back, and I hope that we can continue to see this growth. That we get the 10 tables of Portuguese D&D in April, and then by the end of the year, who knows how many tables we'll have. We're gonna need more DMs. That's the big thing.
Sure. We need to
This I
provide to prepare the
guarantee.
guys.
Yeah, we have the guys are in warming, no?
Yeah, so that'll be very exciting, and at some point by then I will have learned to use Foundry, and then I'll learn Portuguese, and then I could play.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
All right. Um I think Gustavo's trying to say something, but he's frozen, but I like that he has a huge smile though.
Yeah. He's playing Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden with me in another with me and some friends in another stream session. And this happens a lot, not with him, but with everybody. And we just say, it's Oriel. She's frozen us.
I mean, is it even really an online game without technical difficulties though?
There is no such thing. It's a myth.
Yeah. Well, so our next show, speaking of that, where we're gonna have lots of Portuguese games, is going to be April 16th through 18th, so a little under a month. We are going to have more Candlekeep Mysteries, the ones we ran before, and some new ones. We're gonna have some Dreams of the Red Wizards adventures, both of those being in the Masters campaign. We're going to have Moonshay's content, being historic. Season 10, including the premiere of DDAL 10-8. I'd tell you the name of it, but I've already forgotten it, and I didn't write it down. And then, of course, we are going to have some Eberron Oracle of War content and so much more. Dungeon Craft. I'm still waiting on our first Dungeon Craft in Portuguese.
We are working about that.
Working on it. All right.
Good.
So that'll be coming up soon. And yeah, so excited for that, and I just want to thank you both again so much for being on the show today. And yeah, and
Thank you, Jeannie, for having us here. It's a very good time. It's a pleasure to meet you, to speak first time personally. Thank you for all the support you are doing for all the international languages, including ours. We hope to see you soon in a table, probably in Portuguese, at least to watch, even though you are still learning the language. It's
but,
a good opportunity.
That's a good way to
You
learn.
are invited. You are invited. You are our guest.
That'll be a good way to learn, because theoretically I know what the game is, so I should, but
That's the point.
So, looking forward to that. Looking forward to just more D&D, and seeing more and more people from Brazil joining us, and people from other countries, and just excited to see how this goes. And everybody keep tweeting about your games in Portuguese so that I can retweet them and learn more Portuguese.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Just remember to hashtag them for the virtual weekend so that we can promote your games as well, and maybe find some people who speak Portuguese who aren't from Brazil. Fun.
Good.
Alrighty.
Good.
Well, that's gonna be it for this extra long edition of the Baldman HQ. We managed to make it about double the normal time. I feel like that's on brand.
Good.
We like it.
Yeah. So until next month, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.